Well, here we are.
In the real world.
After 1.5 years of not seeing each other, John and Mark are back in the room.
Yep.
Yeah. So, yeah, we've had about 4 hours of listening. Spent the day together. It's been really nice.
Definitely.
And a stack of records, most of which we've bought during the last 18 months. And as ever, any new viewers, John and I just play each other music, basically, and see if there are any connections to be made. And yeah, for the last 1.5 years, we've been doing it on Zoom with many special guests. And tonight, we're back in the flesh, in the same space. So We're delighted to be here. And we kicked off with a Crosby, Stills and Nash record and a wonderful, groovy tune called Dark Star. Nothing to do with the Grateful Dead's Dark Star. But Russ Kunkel on the congas. And just a grooving Stephen Stills song with Crosby and Nash on the backing vocals.
So I put in my box things I bought during lockdown, actually, or just been important during lockdown. So some of these have already been seen, actually. So a lot of these are not going to be new records. But so Bert Yant, LA Turnaround. I didn't have this before on vinyl, and I was very pleased to get a copy of this. This was Bert Yant, UK guitarist. This was an album he recorded in LA, as you can probably guess, but not completely in LA. Some of it was recorded in London as well. Very nice record. I mean, I don't think he made a bad record, really, Bert Yant. And this is one from 1974.
Very nice.
Issued a couple of years ago.
Lovely. This definitely is a new find. Look at that lovely smiling face. It's Jesse Colin Young of the Youngbloods, and an album from 1974. And we listened to the track called The Cuckoo. And The Cuckoo is basically a jam track. Just some great playing and unusually some really funking clarinet. Just one of those tracks where I imagine the guys were in the studio and were jamming, the tapes were rolling, and they listened back and they just caught a bit of magic. But a wonderful tune. And the whole album's great. And it's called Light Shine.
I used to have it
Cheap Heat.
Used to have it a very, very long time ago. And then this is something else I think I've shown before on one of our sessions. Maybe not, actually. I
didn't recognise it.
Yeah, this came out on Sundays. It's a album Spirit made for a soundtrack for a film, surprisingly, called The Model Shop. And it was, I think, recorded between their second and third albums. And it's a lot of kind of jazzy instrumentals, but also some kind of more typical kind of Spirit, kind of rock flavored stuff. And it's really nice, actually. It feels kind of very much as the sequence kind of shows, really, in between that second and third album. Yeah, nice job. Sundays have done a great job reissuing it as well.
And a good film, you say, or an interesting
film. A weird film. Lots of people driving around in sports cars.
I've sort of been digging into Ginger Baker a bit. I guess he died during this period, didn't he? This is an album that I just got 2 weeks ago, Stratovarius. Ginger Baker, and what piqued my interest was that this was during the period where Ginger was doing a lot of work with Fela Kuti. In fact, he went and lived in Nigeria for about 6 years. I think set up the first 16-track recording studio in Nigeria, produced at least one, if not two, of Fela's albums, one of which I was going to play, but we didn't get around to it. Anyway, we listened to a track called Juju that featured a guitarist who goes under the name on the record as Bobby Gass. Nothing to do with the Bobby Gass on the VCLT, I believe, because actually Bobby Gass was really Bobby Tench. Basically they're mostly jams. It sounds like Fela was playing keyboards on the track, the distinctive style, which, as John noted, sounds a little bit like when James Brown plays keyboards. But an interesting album, not an absolute classic, but just interesting to see how those guys kind of collaborated and worked together.
So regular viewers will know that I managed to discover one of the most popular bands in the world during lockdown, having not paid much attention before. And Tedeschi Trucks band have been really my favourite band, I think, through the whole thing. And this is from their second album, which was called Made Up Mind. And we played the track off that called The Storm, which is a very, very intense track, actually. So it's been a real pleasure to get to know Tedeschi Trucks, actually.
And we must say that Stavros, the Spinning Greek, who unfortunately doesn't seem to be appearing on YouTube, but I know watches the channel and I think sometimes listens to our radio shows, gifted us a Tedeschi Trucks album right at the beginning of lockdown. So thank you, Stavros.
Yeah.
And just actually thank you to all of the special guests we had over the last year and a half. It's been wonderful to get to know
good, actually.
some of the VC people.
VC people.
I should also say John and I have been drinking since
Yeah,
the mid-afternoon, so we may be not as coherent as we think we are. But anyway, we're going to keep
We'll
going.
try and keep the show on the road.
We'll keep the show on the road. Am I showing a record? I am.
You are, yeah.
I'm showing a record by Weather Report, and it's the album called Mr. Gone. And we listened to a very brief but very frenetic track, because the Tedeschi Trucks track had a very sort of intense finale, and I needed to match the energy and spirit, so I chose the track called Pinocchio, which is written by Wayne Shorter and has some phenomenal Pete Erskine drumming on it. This is the Weather Report album that seems to feature a different drummer almost every track, but you've got Steve Gadd, Tony Williams and Peter Erskine appearing, so that's a pretty powerful triumvirate.
I think an underrated album by...
Yeah.
The critics didn't like that one at all, actually, for whatever reason. Frank Zappa. We all know Frank Zappa. And I've been gradually picking up all of the vinyl remasters, and they all sound fantastic, actually.
Incredible.
I mean, they've really done a fan... And they cost, like, not really big money at all, actually. And this is Zappa in New York, which has also got an extra album now, so it's now a triple album rather than a double album. We played a section from the Purple Lagoon, and the connection there was really Terry Bozio's pretty frenetic drumming on here as well, and a great tenor saxophone solo by Michael Brecker.
Oh, stunning sax solo.
Yeah, so I mean, they've done a great job on all of these Zappa reissues. They're beautifully done, actually, and I think this was less than £20, so
it's an absolute bargain.
Absolute bargain.
So a guitarist who was a great influence and a great friend of Zappa was Johnny Guitar Watson, our one and only CD of the evening. This is actually quite a nice, it's called the Funk Anthology double CD of Johnny Guitar Watson music. And we listened to the track called I Need It, which is actually was inspired by my friend Rocking Ricky, who has been making a different audio recording every week for his blind friends. He's also visually impaired, and he just sent me his version of I Need It, and it got me listening to...
I didn't know he was doing that. Great. It's a great thing to do.
It's a great thing to do, yeah. So, Johnny Guitar Watson, great guitarist.
Yeah. Then went for something very mainstream. John Legend, Darkness and Light. And it's one of those things that I don't, obviously I saw it came out and I saw it did really well, sold lots of records, but I never actually bought it until quite recently. And it's a great album, actually, really top-rate production from Blake Mills, who's somebody we've been talking about quite a lot in the last 18 months. Great playing on it. It also sounded phenomenal.
Fantastic.
Production sound on it. And it's a really good record. And once again, quite often with some of the more mainstream stuff, it's not going to cost you a lot of money to buy this on vinyl. I think this was like £15, something like that to get it. And it's a nice album. It's good stuff, actually, all the way through.
What was the track, John? It was a stunning.
Played the track called Penthouse Floor, which also features Chance the Rapper.
Right. One of the record store day purchases from drop number one was this, I guess it's really an EP called Dessert by Dinner Party. And Dinner Party seemed to be an aggregation of people like Terrace Martin, Robert Glasper, Kamasi Washington, Ninth Wonder, kind of with various kind of guest singers and rappers. And we listened to the track called Love You, which featured the dog himself, Snoop Dogg, and Alex Isley.
Sounded great.
Sounded good. It's so One of those albums that, it looks really lovely, the splatter vinyl. I'm not sure if it really enhances the audio quality, but it certainly looks very nice.
Definitely. One of the first records I bought during lockdown was the Jeff Parker and the New Breed Sweet for Max Brown record on International Anthem, which has been a label that's been cropping up a lot on the VC in the last year or so. And it's just a great record, really, this one. It's one of my favourites certainly from 2020. And it played the track, which is based on Black Narcissus, with a name I can never remember. Anyway, it's very close to Black Narcissus.
It's got Narcissus in the title.
It has, yeah. And it's and the whole record's great. It's kind of sequenced and really nice as well. Each track virtually flows into the next one, and it's it's a real play all the way through album. This one.
Well, we listened to this album, a track from this album. This is Shaka Khan, called "What You Gonna Do For Me," the album from 1981, produced by Arif Mardin, with a very distinct sort of, it was that interesting moment where the 80s were coming and production style and technique was beginning to change. Quite sort of high on the top end, we both reflected, although there's some wonderful low-end bass playing from Anthony Jackson. And we thought this, I think the whatever drug was in fashion, I think was definitely beginning to affect the sonics, and I think maybe been quite a lot of coke snorted around this period.
It's affecting Shaka around that period as well.
Yes, I think it was. We listened to I Know You, I Live You. I mean, brilliant tune.
Fantastic.
Great album, actually.
And she's one of my heroines, I think, undoubtedly. Nothing to do, I think might have had a break or something, but John Zorn's got very little to do with Shaka Khan. And again, this is one I think I showed in one of the Zoom sessions we had earlier on, but it's Perlucida, which is the Dreamers, which is his group with Jamie Saft and Mark Rebo and others. Very much a gentle side of John Zorn, and this is a beautiful kind of package. Actually, puts very little stuff out on vinyl, Zorn, but when he does it really, really well. It's superbly mastered as well, and it's a very peaceful record, actually, which you don't often say about John Zorn. Really, something you can listen to all the way through. Really interesting playing. Got a little bit of a kind of Terry Riley influence almost. It's kind of strange, almost like halfway between Terry Riley and surf music, I think.
And with a bit of good dollop of CTI in there.
Got CTI stuff as well, yeah. And it's a real good one, this one. I think there's another Dreamers on vinyl as well, which is also really worth getting. And
we should say that been starved of John's sheep's cheese for a year and a half.
Yeah, that's right.
And he bought a very nice serving. And Ben Costello, you'll be delighted to know, 4 very tasty Portuguese tarts.
Yeah, absolutely.
This has just come out on, it's sort of Decca Recordings. We're saying we think this is a bit like the volume 3 of the Jazz Impressed compilations, which were digging into the kind of 60s UK jazz catalogue. The first 2 were put out with Giles Peterson. Although he's been heavily involved in promoting this, he doesn't seem to have anything particularly to do with it. But a double album, some tracks that kind of come off albums that are incredibly expensive. You've got stuff like Harry Beckett, Alan Skidmore, Michael Gibbs, Mike Taylor, Neil Ardley, Ian Carr. Very nicely put together. A big, thick booklet, very detailed kind of biography and notes about each of the artists and the tracks, and put out mastered via Gearbox, which is an all-analogue mastering facility and recording setup in King's Cross, I believe. So really, a lot of care, a lot of attention put into this. And you've got the CD, you said, John?
Yeah, which is also really nice, yeah. And I got quite a lot of original records, actually, the thing was based on. And they've done a good job with it. Really.
Journeys in Modern Jazz Britain, it's called. And weirdly, bit of synchronicity, I played the track Michael Gibbs' Some Echoes, Some Shadows, which then turned out to be on John's radio show
earlier today.
And I didn't even realise.
The big band thing made me think about, this is not something I got this year, actually, something I had for a while. Kenny Clark, Frankie Boland Big Band, which was one of the big European orchestras really around that time in the late 70s and early 70s actually. And this is the album Off Limits, and played the track off this called Sakara, which is a kind of Latin influence track. Very nice sounding stuff. Really good. I mean, their stuff, all of their records, a lot of them are on PS as well actually. This is on Polydor, but they're all worth picking up actually. It was a real kind of some of the best musicians across Europe, and of course Kenny Clark as well, who's no slouch.
Well, the big band theme carried on, and we listened to an album which I'd picked up on holiday in Bridport. This is Rock Farmer. This is a later CTI recording. The album is called Something You Got. It's sort of features Yusef Lateef as well. He pretty much takes a solo on every tune. And it's with the Dave Matthews Big Band. And Dave Matthews, I'm sure, will be familiar to many of the VC because he was behind the Grodek Whipperjanny album, which I know is a bit of a VC favourite, and had that period where he was working with James Brown in the late 60s, early 70s. And we listened to a wonderful tune called Flute Song, which in fact Dave Matthews wrote, and wonderful Hiram Bullock guitar solo, and some great playing from Yusef as well, and a great arrangement from Dave Matthews. So again, I think quite a cheap heat album, and certainly not one that you'd buy on the strength of the cover. But some good music inside it, folks.
So I think in a weird kind of way, staying with an orchestra, not a big band, went for Love Unlimited, and I got this earlier in the year, last year. I had a really battered original copy, which was kind of almost unplayable, and I bought it just wanting to get a clean copy to play, really. And the track Strange Games and Things is actually the long extended version on this reissue, which just sounded great, actually. It's a great album anyway, this one, but that track in the extended version is fantastic, actually. Goes through all kinds of different phases. And basically I love Barry White anyway. So
and was part of our Ed Green trilogy.
Yeah, ended up with 3 tracks with Ed Green and Walter Becker. Not Walter Becker, Wilton Felder.
So I think we were deep in kind of interesting arrangers at this stage. So obviously Gene Page heavily involved in the last album. So a later Undisputed Truth album, of course, Undisputed Truth, a real vehicle for Norman Whitfield to try out his songwriting and various production techniques after he left Motown. And wonderful track called Take a Vacation from Life, in brackets, and Visit Your Dreams. And again, this is a great cheap heat album, lots of great tunes. I really like Hole in the Wall as well, and of course the classics Disco Smash, You Plus Me Equals Love, Undisputed Truth. The album is called Method to the Madness.
Next one was a recommendation from somebody on the VC, and I've actually slightly embarrassingly forgotten who it was. Actually, it's the only album by Walter Heath called "You Know You're Wrong, Don't You, Brother," and it's a great album. Actually, really nice. I mean, he's only got 2 entries on Discogs. I think one singing background vocals to Marvin Gaye, I think, on an album, and that's it actually. And it's a very nice sounding record. Got some really good stuff on it. Once again, Ed Green on drums and Wilton Felder on bass, and it's one of those kind of soul records that just sounds good from that kind of early 70s kind of period.
Yeah, and would definitely sounds as though it should have been on one of those rare groove bootlegs from the early 90s.
Yeah.
Very nice.
I managed to pick up a copy of this really quite cheaply from the States. Which
could be John 6-inch Pianist might have been. I'm sure whoever did will reveal themselves. Still with big arrangements, big sounds. We heard Razzmatazz, the Rod Temperton penned tune from the album The Dude, Quincy Jones, and amazing vocals from Patty Austin, sounding very MJ-esque. And if you've never heard that track, it just sounds like it would seamlessly fit on Off the Wall. But I think a real reminder of the genius of Rod Temperton, actually, from Heatwave, and UK Northerner, wasn't he? Where was he from? somewhere up north.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
Oh, it's interesting. Okay. Oh, hang on, John, because
We're back in business.
yeah, we're back in business. We just lost our picture temporarily, folks.
It's only got a screensaver.
Yeah. Very nice screensaver. Yeah. So there we go. Again, not a rare record, but a very well produced record.
Now this one, I'm pretty sure was a recommendation from Lawrence Mellerman, actually, which is Tom Brock. And this is produced by Barry White, and he once again features all the, well, almost certainly features all the, and this was during the period where Barry White started producing quite a lot of other artists and putting them out under his own kind of production company. And this has got to play the track "I Love You More and More" of this, and this album's been sampled a lot by different kind of hip hop artists as well. Yeah, and it's just another really solid album, really good songs, really good arrangements, and good production. Kind of fits in that. It's a kind of almost like a Lou Courtney. It's not as good as a Lou Courtney album, but it's in that kind of bag. Really.
Well, also in that kind of bag, and a big shout out definitely to Lawrence again, who for me is one of the VC crew who regularly comes up with fantastic recommendations, is this compilation called Suave Villas, which is a very unusual name for a sort of, I guess if there was a category equivalent to roots reggae for soul, this would be roots soul. I didn't recognise any of the artists on this, but everything is just played with great sort of passion and feel, and just it's got that really gentle but beaty kind of mid to slow tempo groove going on, and with very sweet vocal harmonies. And we listened to, I mean, all of the tracks are great. I think we listened to a track, my goodness, what did we listen to? Oh, Joe Brown and the Soul Eldorados, Vibrations Part 2. But yeah, every track is a winner, and thank you very much, Lawrence. I heartily recommend people grab this if they're into soul music.
So, from something sounding like roots reggae, went for some roots reggae. And went for Tribulation, Dennis Brown, which and this is one of a whole set of 7 inches that came out on, well, they originally came out on Observers, which was 90s label, so they were the very first recordings that Dennis Brown made, I think, actually, maybe even before, or maybe after the Studio One stuff he did, I'm not
Probably
sure.
just after.
Probably just after. And yeah, and they just, I picked this up at Honest John's, and they've got a whole stack of these. Nearly all of them have got Big Youth versions on the other side as well, which is a nice combination. And it's just a really good song.
Yeah.
You can't go wrong with Dennis, really.
Can't go wrong. We got into a bit of, I guess it was sort of the dawn of the digital reggae sound, and an absolute 7-inch classic from Half Pint called Greetings, which just sounded absolutely enormous. You forget sometimes 7-inch singles really do pump out.
They really hit, yeah.
The power. Yeah, just sounded great.
So from that went to something nothing to do with reggae whatsoever, really.
No.
And this was Record Store Day Drop #1, the vinyl issue of Two Against Nature, Steady Dan, which has always been one of my favourite records, and I never really kind of liked the sound of it too much, actually. And it's still a digital recording, but they've warmed it up enormously, actually, on this remaster. Sounding great, and it's got some brilliant songs on it. This record, actually, really underrated, I think. And I played the track "Negative Girl" of this, and yeah, I mean, there's still copies to this around. So I mean, if you like Steady Dan,
I need to get one.
get one. Okay.
Yeah. Well, we then had a bit of a head-blowing moment. I've been just really digging back into sort of drum and bass from the mid-90s, particularly stuff like the kind of LTJ Bookham, PFM, well, and in this case, Photek. It's not very much to look at. It's very boring to look at. It's a 12-inch. The track The Rain, and on the other side is Still Life. And just just sort of taken aback by the sophistication of the programming on the beats, and just generally the sonics and the dynamics. And yeah, just really great music. If you don't know Photek, and he's Photek, just dig into some Photek. And I'm just noticing these 12s are beginning to really go up in price as well. So move fast.
Move fast. The change of very much change of pace.
Real gear change.
And I had again needed a copy of a plain copy of Dead Bees on a Cake, David Sylvian, and this has caused some controversy because it's come out as a reissue with very different artwork to the original version, but it sounds really good. Actually, they've done a really nice job remastering it, and that's quite weird that he's got two massive pictures of him with Ingrid Chavez on it, who because he's no longer with, and these are bigger pictures than on the original record, which I think shows that maybe it was a pretty key relationship for him. And play the track off this called I Surrender. Yeah, I mean David Sylvian's he's always there for me, so there or thereabouts for me. Actually, I love his music, including the newer stuff as well, which I know a lot of people don't like.
Well, somebody who's always there for me, and I'm so delighted that this has finally come out on this summer double vinyl, is Lewis Taylor. And you know, John and I have been going on about him for a long time. Again, I know Lawrence is a great fan. I'm not sure how many other people have dug into him, but
useful to know actually people like him.
Yeah, but if you don't know Lewis, you are really in for a treat, because he is an absolute musical genius. And this album from, I think, 1996 has been reissued on vinyl for the first time since it originally came out. And if you wanted a copy, up until now, you'd be paying about £100.
And it sounded horrible. The original version was terrible. Well, yeah.
This doesn't sound terrible. It's come out on Be With Records. It sounds really fantastic. And just an absolute genius. And definitely there's some signs that he might be coming back and might be making music again, which would be amazing, because he's been completely off the scene for about 15 years, I think. Yeah.
I still remember getting the original promo copy of that from I had a friend who worked at Ireland at the time, and taking it home and thinking, God, this sounds like absolutely nothing else. Really amazing.
I mean, which track did we listen to?
Don't know.
I think we listened to a track called Track.
Once again, something I've shown, I think, before, but just saying this is still working for me as a record through, and it was kind of rediscovery, really, of something that was very big for me when I was in my early 20s, and this is John Mayall's Blues from Laurel Canyon, and played the great track off that first time around, which features both Mick Taylor and Peter Green, which is not a bad combination.
Very good combination.
Very quietly playing, mind you.
This is definitely Cheap Heat. This is Richard T, Natural Ingredient. Richard T, really a renowned session player who played with the band Stuff and is on loads and loads of records, wearing a very natty tracksuit there. This is not a great album, but I really like the track which closes the second side, which is written in italics and I can't see what it's called. It's called Spinning Song, and there's just some fabulous Steve Gadd drumming on that.
Wes Montgomery's been big for me through the last 18 months or so. He's always been big for me in my life, actually, but big. And played off Tequila, played the track Bumping on Sunset. Sunships. Bumping on Sunships. That'd be an interesting one. And it's kind of original Verve pressing, kind of very thick record, very thick cover, and managed to pick this up quite cheaply during lockdown, which I was very pleased about, to have a new copy of this.
Sounded really lovely. And I have just picked up this album, I think last week. This is the first Cyrita album, so produced by Robert Margaluf and Malcolm Cecil, who sadly died. Was it this year or last year?
I think it was this year, yeah.
It might have been this year. This is a kind of, it's got Stevie Wonder all over it. He's wrote or co-wrote most of the music with Cyrita. We listened to the track Black Maybe. There's an incredible version of She's Leaving Home. And, this came out, in about 1970, I think? I just think, if the Beatles were taking forward, contemporary music up until the White Album. I think Stevie, they passed the baton on to Stevie, actually. I just think the sound of this just sounds so fresh. And, you know, all of the electronics that were being used, absolutely incredibly innovative and not at all gimmicky, but really sort of meaningful and soulful, and obviously a very powerful tune, Black Maybe, as
Very
well.
powerful tune. Yeah, so my last track was, as it quite often is with me, is Bill Frazil. And played a track, and that was then off Good Dog, Happy Man, which was very nicely remastered by Nonesuch, and now seems to be fetching quite a lot of money. And I got this just as lockdown began, really. A copy suddenly appeared on eBay at about half the price it was going everywhere else, but I think it's rather expensive now. But they did a nice job on this, and that was then this kind of almost like a kind of pop tune by Bill, but it has a bit of an earworm characteristic to it as well. So yeah, well, I mean, you could never go wrong with Bill, and you can never go wrong with Wes.
Absolutely true. Well, and that's it, folks, and this is a remarkably short video for us compared to some of the marathons we've been posting in the last year and a half. So as ever, you can tune in to John and I on our weekly radio shows. Links will be underneath the video, and as ever, we love to hear any comments, any thoughts, any vibes, and sending much love from the UK.
Absolutely, yeah, and thanks once again to all of the people we've had as guests as well.
Been wonderful.
That's amazing. Yeah.
See you next
Take
time,
care.
folks.
See you soon, folks.